Hello folks, I am back with a shooting impressions of the CZ75 SP-01 Shadow Target 2, and I know that's a mouthful. If you didn't see my other video, you might want to check that out. That goes over more about the specs and all the nerdy stuff, pounds and so forth, and a little bit of the comparison to the standard SP-01. However, shooting this is basically a dream. It really is. And I haven't shot my Shadow 2 in a while. So if memory serves, these two to me feel comparable, but I'm going to have to say it has to be that this particular one, the Shadow Target 2, it probably shoots better because obviously it went through the custom shop and the sights are great on here. I did a few things that were my mistake, but this firearm is really good. So I'm going to try to speed this up. I went over some specs and so forth before. A lot of people know that Angus Hobdell, he's a champion shooter for CZ, and it's his group that works on these firearms for competition. So let me show you some targets and go forth on my shooting impressions on this. Okay, right away, I'm going to tell you my first shots with this firearm from double action. Where do you guess the double action shot went? It went right here. And it was my fault. Probably I didn't aim it right, didn't have the right grip on it. And eventually, and by the way, this is at 7 yards. And I'm trying to figure out where the sights were, how to line up the sights. And that was that shot. And then there were the shots here, which I thought maybe the sights were off. I originally thought it was the sights were off. I was blaming the sights originally, but it was not. It was my aim and how I was aiming the firearm and not locking that wrist. So when this was my other errant shot, and eventually I got into a groove where I can shoot where I want to be. Basically, I was trying to get my sight alignment right, so this was a lot of work here, just trying to figure out. It seemed to work at a 6 o'clock hold for a minute there. So I was, because usually I like to shoot firearms straight across the X in the middle, but I think it preferred a 6 o'clock hold. Maybe I can make adjustments on that sight. Be working on a couple headshots again. That's definitely a trigger issue. And then I'm just trying to center in and get acquainted with the firearm at this point. Like I said, there were some issues, whether in one case the sight was like this, and it shouldn't have been. It should have been more like that. In some cases, when I was shooting, it was like this. As you see, the dot is basically off kiltered. So I really had to concentrate a little more and get it centered. So, or I was doing, when I was pulling the trigger, maybe I was wristing it that way. So, because I like to use the pad of my finger, not my knuckles. So I pretty much like to use the pad. So let me go on to my other target. My other target that seemed to be doing a little better after feeling things out. This is at 10 yards. 10 yards. Because that first target, that's basically a warm-up. Again, starting again, that was my issue over in this area. And then I settled down and got to this area. Going for headshots again. And mind you, I sped up the pace on shooting. Before I was going 1, 2, 3, and then now I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm trying to speed up my shooting pace, and I know it is considered a target pistol, but I wanted to speed up the pace. And as you see here, there were some shots that went awry there, but I'm starting to get comfortable with the firearm at this point. So dealing with this target. This is now at 15 yards. So try to stretch it out. And if you're going to have a firearm like that, just stretch out the distance. Here are my other issues right here. That was trying to figure out where I was going to shoot with the sighting, because with every distance I had to compensate for the distance. I believe true shooters basically set their sights up for the distance that they're going to shoot the most. And at this point, I'm just firing the firearm and trying to get used to the firearm as well as getting a sight picture. So yeah, these are my first three. It went into the neck area, which I'm not happy about. Again, I had that problem with angling the fiber optic sight, and it went too high. And I tried to center it as best as I could at that distance. Um, so the I could see the target a little bit. It probably could have been better lighting, but still, if I was in the proper range that I should have been and applied better trigger pulling, maybe I would have gotten these groups a little tighter than them being a little bit sporadic. Uh, all in all, I'm going to just basically say this. This is an excellent firearm, and I'm going to be shooting this a whole lot. Um, I'm going to also compare this since I haven't shot my SPO. I'm sorry, since I haven't shot my Shadow 2 in a while. My Shadow 2, my groups are a little bit tighter, but the trigger feel is so much better on this one. So I'll be doing a lot of experimenting with this particular firearm. Uh, Basically, it is an outstanding firearm. The custom shop really did a good job on this firearm. Um, this is my first custom shop firearm. I'm in love with it, and I'm very happy with it. Hopefully, maybe in the future, I'll get the real use out of it, meaning that I'll get to do some type of competitions and things like that. Look, things are a little complicated for me right now, but I'm I really want to do that and use these firearms for their intended use. That's pretty much all I have to say on this. I highly recommend this firearm if you want to buy a custom shop firearm from CZ. I highly recommend this. And with that said, happy shooting. Stay safe. Hashtag 2A.